Hello, and welcome to a new update from the Markets Middleman. Today is Tuesday, May 26th, and I'm about to share with you my view to what potentially could come up next. So, we've had a week of sideways price action on DXY. We couldn't have any meaningful move last week. You see on the daily time frame how price is stuck between this gap over here and this gap open around the daily level, which is right now is a weekly fair value gap that got mitigated. So when I zoomed in, there was like less than 1 point to fully fill this gap, but I will just consider this as a full fulfillment for the gap simply because it also swept a lot of buy side liquidities from Monday all the way to Thursday. So what is the objective for DXY right now? Let's just see what happened before after price swept those two sell sides, covering the gap one more time, and then change the character to the upside, closing on a daily time frame above this last swing high, marking the first bullish change of character, followed by a break of structure above this high, but price failed to close above this gap open over here, fulfilled the gap as I mentioned, and right now we're just in a sideways movement. Now, I think that this week, even though there's not a lot of news, I think we're gonna have the following breakout. So what I think could possibly happen is eventually we're gonna have a push to the downside. And why is that? Because we have, even though price reached this weekly fair value gap or the daily gap, but notice that if you take a feeble level from here to here, notice where the 50% lies. It is engineered at the lower boundary of the daily fair value gap. And if I look into an H4 time frame, I see a potential 4-hour fair value gap over here aligning with this breaker. So if DXY wants to continue pushing higher and just sweep those buy side liquidities over here, I think it needs to gather some liquidity first. So price could go up. I wouldn't trust that it would just continue going up from here. I need another confirmation. So in other words, if price wants to go up, I need to see a displacement covering the full gap and closing above it, and yes, maybe we can see a continuation to the last weekly high. But since we swept this buy side, there's no break of structure anymore, and we couldn't maintain the daily and the 12-hour above this high over here, then I think price could potentially cover the gap. Maybe not all of the gap, even 50% of the gap would be enough. Then displace lower, mitigate this fair value gap on the 4-hour time frame, and then I want to see on the 1-hour change of character so that I can target the last high from here. And if I see price just displace lower sharply and retraced higher, leaving very strong bearish fair value gaps, then I'll be looking to short from this level, honestly speaking. Or if the structure wasn't very clear and price made another BOS, so I will see this as first change of character and then followed by a BOS. So by this time, I'm definitely bearish on the XY, but it's still very early to think about what's going to happen later on. What I have in front of me is a potential balance for 50% slash full of the gap, and then a displacement lower to cover this 4-hour fair value gap over here, which is significant. So overall, if you think that DXY is bullish and needs to go back into those two relative equal highs over here, I think it needs some momentum. I don't think this gap is enough for price to continue all of this big move. And I could be wrong, and that's fine because I will take confirmation either ways, as I mentioned before, for the bullish scenario. But logically speaking, and if I want to, even though I'm bullish, I want to be waiting a discount. So the discount from all of this displacement to the upside that changed the character and broke the structure to the upside and filled the gap, I think that this is the optimal level over here, around the 50%, filling all of the imbalances on the 4-hour time frame. And then from this level, I want to see a change of character to the upside and then continuation back into this daily or weekly high. So really, I need to wait. I just need to wait since I don't have a clear view yet. Moving forward into the euro, and what the euro did last week is from Monday open, price swept the lows, just exactly what DXY did. This level is significant, and I mentioned this level very well in the last update because it's really significant. It's the last daily fair value gap not mitigated. It's aligning with a daily breaker. So even though price is bearish and will continue bearish, at least this level will help price to retrace back up, fill those imbalances on the daily time frame, and then push lower. Now, even this daily fair value gap doesn't lie at the optimal level or above the 50% feeble level. I will show you on the hourly time frame, but on the daily time frame, market opened with a gap higher. Okay, now Tuesday took Monday's low already. Now what I will show you is the following on the 6-hour time frame. What I think could possibly be our setup for this week. Okay, I don't know if price is going to continue heavily bearish, but what I know is the following. Price seems to create a short-term bottom over here, where we saw break of structure, change of character, sorry, break of structure, but then price failed to break the structure to the downside. And instead of breaking the structure, it just swept the sell side. That was during last week. And on the 4-hour time frame and below, we closed above this external high. So I can view this as a change of character simply because of this candle's close. So on the 4-hour, 2-hour, 1-hour, I have a change of character, but it couldn't last higher than those time frames. So how I'm going to be approaching this setup is through the following. Since I don't have a clear and strong change of character, I will take double confirmation. So I have this 6-hour breaker over here. Notice how many times price just wicked above, closed within this level. So if I perceive this as the last displacement higher, look where the 50% is. So if I want to look to buy from this displacement, considering it as a change of character, I need to wait at least 50% and below to buy at a discount. So notice where this 50% is engineered right at this 6-hour breaker block over here. So my plan is the following. Again, since I don't have a clear change of character, I would wait for price to go back down. And right now I'll scale down into the 1-hour time frame. I would wait for price maybe to sweep this low once again, tap fully into the 6-hour breaker, and then here I want to see a change of character or a market structure shift. A higher high, okay, followed by a fair value gap or a breaker, and then I can place my long positions at this level over here, anticipating the next move to the upside. I would want to see price filling this gap, but here's the thing, the gap is a little bit far from price. So if price goes back down to fill the whole gap, I think it would have turned bearish. And I would perceive this as a market structure shift, then filling the gap, retracing back, and then continuing lower into the sell side. So, and since price is already overextended to the downside, I think price needs some time to breathe and retrace higher and then continue its push to the downside. So I wouldn't be aggressively selling EU, or I wouldn't be waiting for the gap to be fully filled, but I will keep into consideration to take a very clear market structure shift after testing this low and the breaker on the 6-hour time frame. Then I can target this high and an extension to this high over here from last Tuesday and target the daily fair value gap. Now if price does not show me this retracement to the downside and instead did something like this, I'll take this as a BOS, and then I will wait for the fair value gap aligning with the breaker, and then I would target the daily fair value gap. So here's the plan for EU. Now either ways, if I'm waiting a retracement as a trend continuation and I think that the bias is really strongly bearish, then this is the area that I will be waiting price to be bearish from. It's the 6-hour fair value gap aligning with those 3 order blocks over here and the 6-hour breaker. And if I take a feeble level from all of this wave, where I see this 6-hour fair value gap is nested right at the 50% feeble level. So I would wait price to mitigate the daily / the 6-hour fair value gap, any market structure shift, and then I'm joining sellers back into this sell side. But I really don't know, and especially in Forex, the bias can change at any time. So I really don't know if price is going to be bearish from this level. No one knows. But if I want to trade price action purely without being biased into a certain bias, then I have an idea that if price and only if it showed me a clear market structure shift, I'll be joining buyers into the daily fair value gap, anticipating that this is the local bottom, this is the short-term bottom, and price needs to rotate higher. And then even though price wants to continue bearish overall, I think this is a very clear room for me to trade to the upside. And then of course at around those levels, filling in all of those imbalances over here, then I would pause my bullish bias and see also if price is gonna give me a confirmation to join sellers again, or maybe just continue making break of structure, take it as an inverse, and then keep on pushing higher. So this is my view on the euro. Moving forward into GU, and as we can see, also after this push to the downside and huge market structure shift, I wanted to see price trading around those breaker blocks in the last update, which wasn't mitigated up until Monday. So if you just drag a trend line, you see that over here during Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, price couldn't reach the full breaker block. And on Monday, price just gapped higher, closed above Friday's high, and just inverted this huge daily fair value gap. Now, I don't know, honestly, if price had just changed the bias, and you can consider this as another bullish change of character and price is gonna rotate higher. But what I know is the following. This was a huge liquidity on the daily time frame for GU. And overall, this was a bullish fair value gap that got inverted. And if you extend this daily fair value gap to the left side, you'll see something amazing. You'll see how many times this level specifically between 3526 and 3564 was critical for GU. It was a support back into resistance and then a fake push to the upside and then full meltdown from price. So I think that if I want to be bearish, I'll wait price to show me some confirmation after testing this inverse daily fair value gap. Notice also how Monday closed above Friday's high with a full gap open, but Monday's high is not taken yet. So there is an objective to take Monday's high, tap into this level, and then the gap would be as a draw on. So if I'm short from here, I have a reason why to short because there's a gap that needs to be filled. Okay, so right now I will scale down into the 6-hour time frame and I will show you something. So this is the last bottom price made, and then it created a swing high. So swing low, swing high. Then price couldn't break above the swing high up until Monday's open. So Monday's open confirmed the break of structure above those two highs over here, leaving behind a 6-hour fair value gap. So I perceive this as a displacement, breaking the structure to the upside, not reaching the inverse daily fair value gap, and then balancing this imbalance on the 6-hour time frame, and probably would still continue higher. Now, notice one thing that I'm expecting from price during this week is another sweep for this low over here. And why I'm saying another sweep, I'll first go into the 4-hour time frame. Notice how price created those two 4-hour imbalances. So there's still chance to push lower, okay? But just to sweep this sell side over here. If I see price just continue pushing to the downside without stopping, if I see something like this, displacing lower, huge displacement, leaving a fair value gap, I would reconsider buying and I wouldn't actually buy. But if I see a sweep followed by a market structure shift, close above this relative high, then I'll be considering to buy GU from an optimal level up into the inverse daily fair value gap. If price wants to continue pushing up from here, it will be a little bit tight or not the best range possible for me to buy. Then I will adjust and maybe think about it in a different form. But as a swing failure, I see that price had consolidated, yes, but eventually created a displacement to the upside. So if I need to follow the structure is still bullish until I see a sharp displacement to the downside, then I would reconsider and join sellers back into those sell sides over here. But for now, I don't think there's any reason to change the idea so far. So that's it for GU. Keep a very close eye on this level over here on the daily time frame. It's significantly important, and if price is gonna offer me a potential buy into this level, then I would take it. Last but not least is gold, the golden gold. So gold last week or before the last week had closed below this sell side liquidity, marking another break of structure. So price created a change of character, bearish change of character, closing above the last external low, then made a high, retraced back into this level over here, and then created a BOS. Now notice something. Notice that this BOS was a little bit shallow. It wasn't like short displacement leaving behind a clear fair value gap and then price could retrace back into the 50. Instead, what happened is the following. Just one day closed above and then price reclaimed back up. Took this daily fair value gap once again, swept this daily low. Again, another sweep, and I no longer see a strong BOS. Even though I'm still bearish on gold, I think that price needs to retrace back at least to the 50% Fibo level above the 50%, which is the optimal, and then continue lower. I will keep this 50% Fibo level to show you where it is nested. But overall, I think for price to continue its push to the downside, I think it's time for gold also to take a breath to the upside, sweep this high over here, enter the optimal trade territory. And the first thing I saw, okay, right now you have an idea about where the 50% is. The first thing my eyes saw is this 1 hour bearish fair value gap. Look how it's engineered right at the sell side, previous buy side, and just also if you extend it even further till April 13th, it's also a sell side. Now, it's more than enough for price to continue its push to the downside only after balancing this 1 hour fair value gap, strong market structure shift, and then if gold wants to be bearish, then let it be. But so far, if you look also, it's a little bit early to say that price created a change of character. The full external high to change the character to the upside is this high over here. So gold needs to close above this high, then retrace back down, and then you can trade it up until this 1 hour fair value gap. But since already it created an internal high, covered almost all of the gap open, okay, then if price created an internal high once again and displaced higher, then I would make an exception and I wouldn't wait until a full BOS above this, and I would take this into consideration, wait for an imbalance to be taken, and I would trade gold into this 1 hour fair value gap, which I can potentially shift back into being bearish if price confirmed this and continue the trend to the downside. But again, it's still very early, and as you can see, price was still making BOS closing below the sell sides. Even over here, closed below the sell side until this sell side over here. It swept, refused to make a new BOS, and directly made its first push to the upside, closing above this internal high. So yes, price can be seen as ranging, but at the same time making some higher lows from here. So just waiting for an internal change of character so that you can be trading gold up until this 1 hour fair value gap, or if price continues up from here, wait until a close above this high to mark an external change of character. We're back bullish at least on the 1 hour time frame, and then continue its push up until the 1 hour fair value gap. If you manage to take any longs, okay, till the 1 hour fair value gap, consider closing your positions, or at least 90% of your position, regardless of if you have a bullish count or not on gold, because this is significant and at least price would make a reaction from it. In case all of what I said just failed and gold made another push to the downside, then yes, I think it opens up the possibility to sweep the sell side again and continue its push to the downside until we take out those two relative equal lows over here at the sell side around 4,350. But before I see a sharp push to the downside, I don't think there's any reason for me to be bearish right now on gold. So that was it for today. I really hope you find some value in this update. I'll be updating those kind of setups on our group chat, so a lot of things can change from day to day. A lot of narratives can play out. Some setups fail, some setups are born from nowhere. So it's really a matter of waiting a little bit, being patient until price hands you the A+ setup, because it will always show up. So I'll be making also my trade recap for May. There's a lot of beautiful trades in May, and it's overall a great month. So I'll be sharing my trade recap at the end of this week, same as I've done it on April. So let me know if you have a similar plan for those pairs. I hope you enjoyed it one more time, and trade safe.